Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Everhart Museum's very first Second Sundays Folk Arts Series. We're very pleased to be representing the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts as a partner in their Folk and Traditional Arts Initiative. And we will be representing over the course of all of this year, every second Sunday through 2021, various folk arts, various folk artists and their traditions, their stories, their processes, and just getting to know some wonderful people from Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, Susquehanna and Pike, Wayne and Wyoming counties. This 6-county region crosses the Endless Mountains, the Valley Cities, into the Poconos, crosses the Susquehanna River, the Delaware River, and so many beautiful communities in between. And we'll be exploring the traditions, not only of people who have grown their entire lives through this region, but we'll also be talking with people who have made this region their home from various countries, other states, and an enormous array of cultural backgrounds. We're going to start today by introducing to you one of Scranton's own, or the Valley's own. I can't say Scranton's own. I can definitely say the coal region's own, Leo Schott. Leo may be a well-known and well-loved figure to many of you, and some of you will just be meeting him for the first time today. Leo was born in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and has been, I would say, you have been a fixture in music of all different sorts for the past many decades. And we won't go into how many decades now, shall we?
Oh, that's okay. 50 is coming up this September.
Fantastic, fantastic. So today we're going to have a conversation between Leo and I, but really it'll be a conversation between traditions and between music and stories, and we're delighted that you're here today to join us and to learn about this wonderful man that I'm pleased to call my friend. Leo, tell me about Carbondale when you were growing up.
Well, I live in Germany. I was born in Carbondale, but I
So you grew up in Germany?
Yeah, I grew up in Germany and currently live there. Just another Up Valley coal town, former coal town. The mines, I think, were still going when I made it onto the scene, but not very long after that. So,
how about your family? I mean, were your family musicians, or was music in the house? How did you trip over this passion?
if my father had been allowed to touch the instruments in his home, he would have been a musician, I think. And my mother could play piano by ear.
She played piano.
Yeah, no formal lessons or anything, just simple stuff to amuse herself. There was a piano at her grandmother's house, so that's where she taught herself.
So did she play much at home? I know that
No,
there was never time.
There was no piano in the home.
Oh.
So every now and then when we went to my grandmother's house, she'd play.
That's always a treat.
Yeah.
And was her style of music something that you remember from early on, or how did you find the traditional Irish music that, although certainly you play many other styles of music,
Right.
clearly, how did you find that passion that you have for the traditions of Irish music?
Her father, my grandfather Hosey, when we were young kids, he, able to be on his knee, he'd sit there and bounce us on his knee in little Irish tunes. So that's what he did. So that would have been my first exposure.
I can still feel that feeling of being on someone's knee, and you're bouncing, and then the knee disappears, and then it comes back.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
So to have that happening with an Irish tune can only be all the more fun.
Yeah, and he was born at a time when there were still traditional Irish music being played in the area, just as a result of so many people from the west of Ireland being in Lackawanna County, that sort of thing. And he was always one for going to dances before he was married, so, and they would have been doing Irish dancing along with everything else, you know.
So, this is a lot to ask, but could you give us an example in music of what a traditional Irish dance song would be versus a ballad or something else?
Okay, well, let's start with a jig. And can't remember the name. Friar's Jig, and Behind the Bush in the Garden, I think.
Sorry. That goes right through my heart. I mean, it goes right through me. I don't know if there is an instrument. I mean, so many instruments carry the spirit of the place from which they came inside of them, but this is, you know, top one. I feel always like I'm standing in the heather on the, you know, on the peat bogs.
On the moor.
On the moor. Have you ever been to Ireland playing that, especially in an outside setting?
Outside setting, a few times maybe. Outside of the pub in Doolin across the street, there's a little table area set up and people playing outside during the day in the summertime. Other than that, strictly in the pubs during someone's home.
Right. I had an extraordinary experience of being able to go to Edinburgh at the change of the century. And normally on New Year's Eve, which they call Hogmanay, coming down the Royal Mile, there's a march of 1,000 pipers. But because it was the turnover of the century, it was a march of 10,000 pipers. I was lifted off of my feet, and as the whole procession of the din was unbelievable, and you didn't know your own heartbeat from the heartbeat of the person next to you. And as they passed by, we all just fell in line behind them. And I could understand why the pipes were used for when they had to march over long and vast territories, because I felt that I could have walked around the earth and never grown tired. It was that energizing, and it carried you along. So it has a really dear place to me from that memory.
And the curious thing is, that instrument started life in Ireland and went to Scotland, and the old Irish war pipe, or Piedmore, which means big pipe. So these are Uilleann pipes, Uilleann. 100 years ago, well, 120 years ago, if you said the word Uilleann pipe, if you said the word Uilleann in reference to this bagpipe, nobody would know what you were talking about. Back 100 years ago, they had to have an Irish name for everything in the country, so someone said, well, the Uilleann pipes, so that's how it got its name. But back to the Highland pipes, they started out life in Ireland and then made it over to the Western Islands and the Highlands of Scotland. And and pipelines, of course, are a British military idea,
right,
which makes them automatically suspect. In any case, but a great enough instrument by itself. Solo Highland piping. If they're playing marching tunes or dance tunes, a slow air or two, it's fine.
So I'm hearing this is maybe a more intimate pipe, a more personal pipe? Is that what attracts you to this one?
Well, what attracted me, if I knew what I know about Irish music when I started, I never would have left this instrument and progressed to anything else. Because I was getting into Irish music backwards, you might say. Well, you may not, well, no, you would say that because that's exactly what it was. Sometime 1966, actually I can tell you exactly when. On Good Friday, 1966, I was in my uncle's living room in Washington, D.C., and he put on a Clancy Brothers record. The Clancy Brothers at Carnegie Hall. So my brother and I were instantly taken. And listened to that record, didn't really pursue anything else. Rock and roll happened, and it was a band from England called Fairport Convention that was the first band to rock up Irish tunes. So they played jigs and reels, dance music, and put drums and bass to them, and they were the first to do it. I started listening to them, and then 1975, my dear friend Mike McHale played me a recording by the Chieftains, and this instrument was among them, and I didn't know what this was. And it took me a few years to find out exactly what it was, and who played it, and where I could get one, and so on and so forth. But I was under the notion that Irish music needed to be accompanied. And I thought, well, the bagpipe has its own accompaniment.
Right.
You have the melody here, with the chanter. And the accompaniment and the drum pipes here. What a perfect instrument to play Irish music on, because nobody else was interested in playing Irish music at the time. So I thought, this is the way to go. But the solo tradition is the real heart of Irish music, and it's nice to play in groups and all that, but the solo music performance is the real deal.
Yeah.
So
I love the pub tradition. I love that, groups of people used to stop and just listen to a solo performance, just for the sheer joy of participating in that expression, in that moment, before recordings, before everything. That's the spirit and the heart of this music.
right, and groups of people getting together and playing as well, but nothing organized. It was as much a social thing as a musical thing, which is the great thing about it.
You mentioned to me once that one of the reasons that you love to keep playing and keep the art alive is it reminds you of that piece of something that we've been losing at an increasing rate, something that used to exist that maybe doesn't anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That social aspect.
Yeah, and not that I can convey any of that, but just the generation of musicians, the last of them would have been born in the 1940s. The ones that maybe didn't have a radio in their house or didn't have a phonograph in their house, and people playing music on instruments or people lilting tunes, whatever it was. A dear friend of mine, Mary Gallagher, who's a fabulous fiddle player, originally from the Bronx and settled here, taught in the Scranton School District at Marywood College. Her grandmother was from Ireland, and she and her grandmother and her mother went back in 1948 or so, and no electricity in the house, that sort of thing, and they were waiting for musicians to come over, and people started coming in, they wanted to dance, so there were people lilting tunes rather than, until the musicians got there. So, yeah.
Do you feel a song coming on?
Not yet. I'll play something.
Yeah, I was gonna
But what's
say-
the flute? What would you want to hear?
Well, if you said you would have never picked up anything but the whistle, let's start there.
Okay. All right. Well,
Now, do whistles come in keys? Do they?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
okay. Side by side.
Right. That's not easy to do. That looks like me trying to do chopsticks.
All right.
I'm not the most skilled.
Okay, so the shorter of the two is in D, the larger of the two is in C. And these are penny whistles, or tin whistles, or flageolets. And these instruments, and instruments like these are all over the world, made from different materials. So it was originally called a tin whistle because it was made of tin with a wooden plug to form the wind blade that you blow through. And they were called penny whistles because they cost a penny. Now, anywhere from about $7.50 to $300, $400, depending on what you're buying and who you're buying it from. So
$300 whistle doesn't sound as appealing as a penny whistle.
it's all what you need it to sound like and look like. That's at the end of the day, and it's remarkable what people have done in the last 40, 50 years with the variety of whistles you can get, the variety of keys, the variety of sounds. So, all right, here we go.
thing to take and bend a note like that. So since, as each finger goes over the hole, it's playing a certain key, a certain tone, but as you kind of roll the finger on or off so that you're uncovering or covering partially the hole.
Other playing traditions do it. You know, it's I think the pipers in Galicia and Spain will do it, and the ones in Asturias will do it. And it's definitely a component in the piping in Eastern Europe and the Balkans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not just an Irish thing.
It's certainly probably one of the characteristic pieces of Irish music, but I love that this passion of yours has gotten so deep that you are following the traditions and you know the traditional background of so many other countries based on the instrument itself. You know, you're playing traditional songs from Ireland, but you've gone ahead and studied through the lens of that beautiful instrument so many other cultural traditions as well. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, I have to check the other things out, you know, just to see what everybody else is doing. And where the connection is made and where it's not made. There's bagpipes from India straight across to Europe and across North Africa, all over the Middle East. From North Africa up to Scandinavia, and like I said, from northern India over to Ireland and the British Isles.
Leo, who was your teacher? Certainly, possibly, and I'm not sure if this was your teacher, also an instrumentalist, and you had one?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to see the chief news at Carnegie Hall in October 1979, and there was a person handing out flyers on the stairs outside the concert. Learn to play alien pipes, instruments available for students. So I took a flyer, and the next day I called him, and a guy named Bill Ochs, O-C-H-S, and Bill got quite a bit of people playing Irish music on the pipes and the whistle and the flute. So he set me up with a pipe maker, David Quinn, who was in Vermont at the time, and the instrument I started off with was this chanter, different bellows and a different bag, and no drones. The drones were added after, and so the bag, the bellows, and the chanter are known as a practice set. And I got that about 2 months later, and put it together and couldn't make head nor tails of it, so I decided to call Bill back, and I said, when can I come out for a lesson? And I went the first year, I guess about 5 times or so, and then less frequently over the years. But that's where I first started.
What was your first impression of when you first started working with Bill, the original teacher? I mean, what did you think of him? What kind of a person was he? Do you remember your first impressions?
Oh, absolutely. I was spellbound. Here's someone playing a full set of alien pipes. It was the first time I was ever in the room. Was, other than Carnegie Hall, hearing the chieftains, and it was overwhelming, just spellbound, absolutely. he was a great teacher, he was a great musician, and a very kind person, a very generous person. Absolutely. So, unfortunately, he checked out a few years back, but you know, his name lives on, and his you know, what he gave to the world of music stands. So.
I don't have to hesitate to say that one of the things that we've found that is the most common characteristic among folk artists of every traditional art is that incredible generosity of spirit. There's just something of that art when it lives inside you that requests to be shared, to be proffered, and to be to have people have a way to have interaction and connection with it. I mean, your life has shown that. You know, people can be private people or public people. That has nothing to do with what happens when the art is coming out and being shared. So you certainly have carried on that thing which you loved the most about him. So that's a beautiful thing. And as you were setting up the instrument, I can absolutely see you trying to figure it out for the first time with no idea of what to do, because I'm watching you set it up, as I have many times, and going, that's just a lot of work, Leo. That is a lot of work.
The crazy thing about this, it's in the bagpipe world, folks. This is not a user-friendly instrument. This is for the dreamers. This is for the lunatic fringe. If you want to play a bagpipe, find a Highland pipe band, and they'll teach you something, and you'll be able to say that you play a bagpipe, and let it rest at that. If you want to torture yourself, this is your instrument. But it's been much easier over the last 30 or so years. The internet, you know, has made this thing explode. Riverdance has made this, you know, Irish music and this thing explode. There's more pipe makers right now, and there's more people playing than ever before in every corner of the world. And it's for Irish music, it's a golden age, to be sure.
It's interesting because these are the conversations we're having all around the world. Is what do we gain? What do we gain from this time of our collective existence with the pandemic and with much slower paces of life and the separation between people where normally we were together? So the actual music of it is flourishing. But again, like so much music, the essence of it is the togetherness.
Well,
so we're able to still share that through means like this and through Zoom and all these different online capacities. But I know the completion of that renaissance that you're talking about, that golden age, is when we'll be able to enjoy it together in person again.
Yeah, once again, and there have been a lot of musicians suffering from this thing, and in the United States in particular, there are lockdowns everywhere, but they seem to have worked in other places and not here.
So, this has been a very tragic year for us. Is there a song on either the flute or the tin whistle or the pipe that would be something of a less, dance or jig kind of thing, but of a more somber tone? There's
a song called Skibbereen. Skibbereen is almost as far south as you can go in County Cork in Ireland, and it was particularly hard hit by the famine. And I guess in the song, I don't know the words of the song. I just know the melody here. But the person talks about getting out of skibbereen and making good and going back and helping people out. I think. Check local listings, kids.
Is that a song that you want to play, or?
Sure,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And then I'll play, I'll go into a chick after that. It's always, we always play, well, some people play dance tunes after slow airs, and that's, I'll do that.
Way to recuperate the spirit.
Sure. This is definitely one instrument where I can't use the choke, but it was in tune when I bought it.
Thank you. Isn't that one of the most human things, to take that sorrow when you're in that place of just resting in your sorrow and letting it be and feel it, and then to begin to rise out of it into something that you can only call an ecstatic dance at that point, because you're sobbing and laughing in the same breath and in the same breathing. It's just beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi. I'm not, there's so much inside each one of these songs that to lose any of these art forms is just something that you can't imagine happening, you know? And
It's in good hands. It's in good hands now. Across, it's in very many good hands now. I'm not talking about mine.
no, I'm just,
Everybody else, you know, it's in very good hands, and it was a dicey situation with this instrument in general. 100+ years ago, there was Captain Francis O'Neill, who was the police chief of the Chicago Police Department, wrote a couple of books. Irish Minstrels and Musicians was the first. So he talks about Irish music, and he concentrated on Newland pipers at the time, because he was thinking this is something that was going to be going away. There weren't many in Ireland at the time with the immigration and the aftermath of the famine. But every Irish musician who came through Chicago, it was any good, got a job in the Chicago police force. So, you know, insofar as Irish music and Uilleann pipes, then it was a happening place for a while. But these things wane and wax and wane, and
that does my heart good, because not every traditional or folk art is in a place of stability like that.
That's right.
And I
That's
wasn't
right.
expecting you to have that as an, you know. So I know when we talked about it a few years ago, you felt that the greatest challenge to the longevity of this art was modernity.
Absolutely. It's the thing that's brought it up to the wider world.
And that's the thing
Yeah.
that saved it. Its greatest challenge is the thing that put it in better stead. So we always must remember that you know, life has some really interesting twists and turns for us.
Yeah, it's again back to that generation of musicians, the ones that were born in the 30s and the 40s that would have, well, even up to the 50s, that would have seen and heard those musicians that, like I said, they learned it from another player. They didn't learn it from, I learned things mostly from recordings. So that's, you know, and learning technique and such from, you know, insofar as the pipes and the whistle is concerned, from Bill Ox and a few other people. But yeah, and the other part of it is the commoditization of it and the commercialization of it, but anything to spread it around is a good thing.
I know, this is
at the end of the day.
The age-old, argument between true artists is, you know, does commercialization of an art save it or kill it? And, you know, so we won't even go into that. There's plenty of, once people get drinking in bars again, we'll be able to pick that conversation up.
There you go.
You have a radio show on Sundays, and if you are really interested in learning more about traditional arts of Ireland, so, I mean, you know so much, and you bring so many artists forward, and you tell the stories of so many people, and tie together those delicious tidbits of history and music, and where they collide and bounce off each other. Please tune into his show on Sundays. Tell us how we can find you. WFTE.org at 2 p.m. every Sunday afternoon, 2 to 6 p.m. Music of Ireland and the British Isles. And it's mostly Irish music,
But you never know what you're going to hear. It can go any place, but generally speaking, Irish music.
Well, if it meanders, then it truly is an Irish show.
It meanders sometimes. It meanders sometimes. It's one of the I'm not going to get into it.
Do you feel a song coming up? Would you close out with a song on the flute? We have not heard from that instrument
No,
yet, and if that's not asking too much.
That's not asking too much.
That is such an amazing instrument. I mean, it is complex and simple all at the same time. But there's a lot of simple parts, which makes it incredibly complex.
Yes, and a lot of simpletons playing, which of course. The number one proponent.
The bellows.
The bellows.
Incredible.
This is what gets the air into the bag. I didn't show any of that, but oh well. That's for the next time. Check local listings. All right. This is a simple system flute. If I'll put the other head on just for a second. So, this is based on flutes made in the 1800s in England, and would have had a few more keys on it. So this particular instrument is a modern instrument that's made to play Irish music. You don't really need keys, 6 holes, just like the penny whistle, and your standard flute head joint. This instrument is made out of boxwood. Lots of old flutes, wooden flutes, were made out of boxwood before the tropical tropical woods started coming into Europe from Africa and from South America and from Asia. Boxwood was one of the ones that they depended on because it's very dense wood and resistant to the moisture, which is the reason that it's chosen. So this is a metal head joint that's not very different from what you'd see people in concert bands and orchestras playing and such. So, all right.
Oh,
That's right. Leo, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
My
Thank
heart,
you.
as always,
Well,
delighted to be with you.
happy to oblige. Did you want a song?
Say again.
Did you want a song? Okay.
We do.
We'll close it up with a song.
Okay.
All right. This is a song written by a great flute player and Irish and Welsh language teacher from Boston. He's been living in Wales for quite some time now. Willie Mahan, and he wrote this song on why he started on the flute. So, come on, ye desperados who frequent this dark place. I hope you like the music, for it's right there in your face. And now, I have a thing to say, it's music and flute. I've learned the scale of do, re, mi, and I started on the flute. Well, I've played these jigs and reels now for 30 years or more. I danced the poke around the house, I battered up the floor. But when it came to music, I'm conspicuously mute. And that's another reason why I started on the flute. Well, I tried the bag and bellows once, for I thought it suited me to sit there like a peacock with the chanter on me knee. But all I got was squawks and squeals, which the neighbors thought was cute. And that's another reason why I started on the flute. Well, I took the old melodeon that was hanging on the wall. I played the Stecks of Barney, but the dog began to howl. The missus says, whoosh easy now, you crazy old galoot. And that's another reason why I started on the flute. Well, I went and bought the fiddle, and I also bought the bow. She's the queen of all the instruments, said the neighbors, don't you know? But when I went to scraping the shore, and out the door they'd scoot. And that's another reason why I started on the flute. Well, the flute, it is an instrument with 6 holes in a row. And another hole that's bigger, sure, for that's when you blow. You pick it up, you purse your lips, you give that to your toot. 'Tis a simple operation when you're starting on the flute. Well, there's some that play it gentle, while others play it rough. Some concentrate on embouchure, while others merely puff. But me, I have a technique that no other player knows. I put the flute up to my mouth, and then I blow my nose.
I was truly afraid where that was going. Afraid in a delighted kind of way.
Try the wheel, folks. I'm here till Thursday.
Ever a joy, Leo Schott. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please do consider visiting the radio show on Sundays.
WFTE.org, Music of Ireland and the British Isles. This week we will be simulcasting this very program.
Wonderful.
At the 2 o'clock hour, and then, wait, what am I saying? This is the weekend where the St. Patrick's Day Parade would normally happen in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
That is true.
Music of Ireland and the British Isles is starting at midnight.
Oh, you're doing a...
We're starting at, the marathons, the Ellen Pike Marathon starts. 17 hours of Ellen Piking, kids. It's Hot Band Free Radio here on WFTE.org.
That gives you a taste. Make sure you go. I don't want to be there.
But we will simulcast this very broadcast at 2 o'clock
Sounds perfect.
on WFTE.org.
Thank you for coming to our very first Second Sundays Folk Art Series. We are recording at the Everhart Museum. Some of our second Sundays, when possible, will be outdoors, in person, and social distance, and other programs will be online here. Next week, we will be featuring the incredible leader of the Classical School of Indian Dance, Sujata. And you can find all of that information on our website, which is everhart-museum.org. My name is Kimberly Crafton. Thank you so much for joining me, joining us, and we'll see you again next month.